up. But Angel, it's all yours.
Okay. All right. So today we're going to talk about work-life integration because balance does not really exist. So I'm going to talk more about that. So we're going to talk about what the difference is. We're going to talk about the impact of perfectionism, what is fulfillment, and then some practical tools. And then if you've got any questions and if we've got time for that. So I wanted to just say that life has changed considerably. In the 19th century, work days were much longer. They were 10 to 12 hours, 6 days a week. And the standard work week was around 40 hours or more. But the output per worker was very, very low. So you would build cars in a day before Ford came around. Now you can build a car in less than an hour. But the problem is that now one worker oversees multiple machines and multiple processes and does things that then creates an output that would have required hundreds of workers in the 19th century. So what we do is we now work fewer hours, but we are also expected to produce much more in that time. So even though we say 40 hours, but we can produce in much less, in a much shorter period of time, we can produce much more. So what happens is we become more task efficient, and our productivity, on the other hand, is less than what we should have because we're constantly distracted. We have information overload, and there's no boredom or downtime. So the problem is that we need to be productive in all areas. So we have really fast communication. I remember in the 1980s when I was working in Hong Kong, there was a study that came out that said we were then, this is before email, this is before internet and all of that. We're having faxes and the big brick telephones. So I don't know if you remember those, but for those of you who are not that old, they were massive. So that was what we had. And the study said that we were doing in a month what people 100 years, so in the 1880s, had done in a year. Can you imagine how fast we are now with communication so much faster, with constant change, technological advancement, with technology and AI, and of course with all of the connectivity that we have. So we can deliver things. I mean, I can order something on Amazon and it'll be there a few hours later if I want to. And we are constantly available 24/7. So there's instant gratification. We're always on there. And of course, we've got all of this distraction available. So the dopamine is going overload and overboard, and we are just expected to be productive in all areas of life. So we're exhausted. Because even when we have downtime, when we're distracting ourselves, we play games that expect us to go up levels. So there's always this expectation that we have to do really, really well. We can get into competition with ourselves and with others. So that's where perfectionism comes in. So there's this whole pressure that we need to meet all of these standards that either we think the other people set or culture sets for us, or the ones that we set for ourselves. And what this does is creates all of these unrealistic expectations, and it creates massive stress and anxiety. And it pushes us beyond our limits because we don't have time for recovery, and that can lead to burnout. We are just constantly on the go. So this is why when we talk about work-life balance, it's a myth. So because life is not dynamic, it's dynamic, it's not static. And we've got different stages with different priorities. So there will be times where you will be focused more on, let's say, parenting or building your career or whatever it is. So you can't have balance because you're focused on one area. And then, of course, there are all these unexpected life challenges that we have that we're not prepared for. So we need to grow and progress and grow. And that's, again, those are the areas in life that we focus on specifically, whatever it may be. So if you're in your 20s, maybe you go traveling or you try a few jobs or what. I mean, I tried a number of jobs in my 20s. So, but it was never work-life balance because sometimes things require more attention than other things. So I prefer work-life integration, because what it does, it dissolves this illusion of control. We don't have control, right? But what we can do is we can adapt to life's demands without feeling guilty or trying to manage this balance, because we see work and life as separate entities that need to be balanced. Okay, so what we do instead is we can see the interconnection of life. We can see how things shift and move. It's a movable feast, and we need to blend these areas so they can complement and support each other. So we don't compete for time and attention when we go work, life. So we integrate that all into one thing. So what does that have to do with fulfillment? Well, one of the things that people say is they want a sense of satisfaction and contentment in their life. And the best way to achieve that is by aligning you with your values, your goals, and your passion. So when you have a sense of purpose and meaning, you can go beyond success and achievements. And when you have work-life integration, that means it encompasses overall well-being. You're not just focusing on one area of your life, you're going into quality over quantity. You're going into what matters most. So practical tips for today are: embrace imperfections as part of the process. Life is never perfect. It's always about progress, not perfection. So it's about achievement rather than doing exceedingly well and trumping everybody else, including your own expectations. The thing that we talked about last time was find opportunities for eustress. I don't know if you remember, that was the positive stress that you got from doing something new, from changing things up a little bit, and from stretching yourself just far outside of your comfort zone, that you benefit from that challenge of learning and growing, because that was what life is really all about. So as I said before, find out what your values are. If you don't know what your values and your needs are, talk to me about that. Find out what your passions are. Find out what really matters to you and what fulfills you. And then really, really important, when you don't own up to your expectations and what you think you should or should not be doing, have some self-compassion, because we need to actually have downtime. We need to rest and recharge. We can't keep going all the time. It only leads to burnout. So some other practical tips are, this is something that I learned through one of my mentors. When you plan your year, create your self-care calendar first. At the beginning of each year, I sit down and I go and I have my acupuncturist in every 4 weeks. I have my hairdresser every 6 weeks. I have all my appointments that show up regularly that help me stay healthy. My cleaner, my gardener, all of these people who I consider my mental health support, because they help me focus on the things that really matter. And I know that things are getting taken care of when I get really busy. So I can also that also means I can I can identify cycles and rhythms, and I can plan for really high stress times. And that includes holidays. If you know that something is going to trigger you, we've got the trigger buttons there, prepare for that. Make sure that you've got the downtime, that you maintain your healthy boundaries, that you can say, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take care of myself. And this is not about being selfish. This is about selfing, if you remember from self-care. So find out when you schedule regular appointments, also schedule recharge time. Maybe that means for you that you have, you go away for 3 times a year or 4 times a year. So that way you don't do anything at all. And that's not holiday, that's just downtime. And just choose what it is that you do when you ask for help and support. Yes, I love having somebody help me with the garden and with the cleaning, but cooking, for example, which I know not some people don't like, that's my self-care. That's what I love doing. That's what recharges me. You will find me in the kitchen chopping away on the weekend and preparing meals for the week, because that's what really fulfills me. Other than that, delegate and outsource. So those are some of my tips. Have a look at what really matters to you and what can you manage in a different way. So next time, we're going to start talking about leadership. And the reason why you may have noticed we did stress, we did self-care, and now we did work-life integration is because why is it so important? Because leadership starts with self-leadership. So I wanted to make sure that we covered all of that before we dive into working with other people. So thank you for your attention. And if you've got any questions or you want to work on your work-life integration, you know where to find me. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that. So if anybody's got any questions for Angela, just put your hands up. Looks like, Jay, you've jumped in early. Go ahead.
I did. I'm not on mute. I might know I've took myself off mute. Fantastic. So look, I think I'm just agreeing with everything Angela says there, purely and simply because, I mean, look, we know it's such an issue because the government has brought in the right to switch off law. So an employee doesn't have to answer the phone after a set time to his boss unless there's a specific clause or it's in that shit don't happen to bloody business owners, does it? Yeah, we don't have the right to actually log off and ignore things. We're constantly on the go, and so that discipline that is the key thing. When we first did the CRM, I was going crazy because look, those people that know me, right? If you want something, I'm going to give it to you now. That's just the sort of person I am, right? I'm on the go. And we got clients in Perth, right? So clients in Perth would send me a message at 7:30 at night thinking it's all right for them when it's 10:30 over here and I'm in bed and the machine, that my phone goes ding, and I'd be jumping around like an idiot and stressing out. So that discipline to make sure you do take care of yourself. Fantastically wise words. Thanks, Angela.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Mark.
Just unmuting. Sorry, I can only just replicate and support everything Jay and Angela have just said. So as a small business owner, if you guys seriously think that you can knock off at 3 o'clock and take the kids to soccer practice, you've deluded. So you can carve out the time specifically, but work-life balance as a small business owner doesn't exist. So there's many people out there that will tell you you've got to have work-life balance and we can show you how, and give me lots of money and we'll show you how. Sorry, you guys are the bookkeeper, the marketer, the receptionist, the admin. You're everything to everyone. Unless you can afford to engage all those other services, you literally, what you do is about 40% of your actual trade or skill or profession is actually about 40% of what you do. Everything else is being a small business owner. So I can only congratulate you, Angela, on telling people the truth, and they have to actively make that decision to carve that time out for their loved ones and themselves, but to also realize as a small business owner, it's tough. And if you don't structure yourselves, and that applies in corporate as well, if you don't structure yourself, my president in the organization I ran with 3,500 employees was the biggest narcissist you've ever met at 93 years of age as a chairman, and would intentionally ring me on holidays to the point where he got the girls to put a call through to me when I was in holidays in Fiji. So trust me, when Jay says that right to switch off, that act, Fair Work, which is implemented 26th of August for large business, 26th of August next year for small business, that had to be implemented because there's that many employers that actually treat people like that. It's disgraceful. So well done, Angela. Very good presentation.
Thank you.
As a business owner and that, and talk about balance. I hate the word balance. It's all about having the right boundaries that you put in place, which is another one of Angela's specialties that she talks about.
Yeah.
And the word balance is the same. Anybody who talks to you that starts talking about work-life balance, run. The same as anybody who comes to you and talks about having time management, run. Because it's not managing time, it's managing your priorities. And as Angela said, it's all about the integration, because there's nothing that's ever constant. Everything is always on the change. And so we've got to be able to adapt around that. So thanks again, Angela. Anybody else